God does not forgive you. You ever hear that somewhere? God does not forgive our sins. That's old thinking. That's what we used to think about God. Something out there, some really nasty parental figure with a drinking problem and an anger management issue is going to punish us for not adhering to rules that haven't been explained. Yeah, I don't buy that. You know, we say often in New Thought that God is love. The allness of love. The unconditional love of spirit that permeates and saturates the entirety of its being. The unity of life is love. Let that sink in for a minute. The unity of life is love. The allness of love. Unconditional love is spirit. Absolutely everything is an expression of this unconditional love that has created life, has embodied that life within each one of us, whole and complete. God doesn't need to forgive any sins. There are none. It is within the human condition that forgiveness actually becomes a really good tool for living joy, for living in harmony and peace and love. You see, that inner essence of each one of us is already whole and complete, perfect in every aspect. Is God itself embodied in a unique and wonderful individual channel of expression that is us. Each one of us is that divine channel of good. How can there be anything that sullies that goodness from expression in the world? There's only one place that can happen. In the consciousness of the one who is pulling the veil over the light of love. Whether willfully or in ignorance, to the idea that love is all there is, that this divine intelligence is expressing through us and as creative consciousness and a channel of love in this very moment now, can only be blocked by our own thinking. In whatever way, shape, or form, we are creating the chains of our own misery. Now, we can say, they did it to us. It's easy enough to do, right? We have an illusion that there is some separation between me and you, and you, and you, and you guys out there on the film world, that there is some separation by distance or philosophy that makes somehow an other than me or us, than that unity of spirit. And so what we have tendency to do, and I've noticed this, and I use myself in this example, because I don't like to place wherever you are on you, because you know where you are. But I've found that over the course of my lifetime that using myself as an example usually has a pretty good resonance because I'm a pretty average human being. I have experiences. You know, we all have experiences. Some of them I place judgments. Well, thank you, Dave. I love you too. Some of them we place judgments on. That was good. That was bad. That was hurtful. That was fun. It's all in our judgment, right? But where the chains of life come in, where we bind ourselves from the freedom that is inherent in our lives, the freedom to choose how we respond to life, the freedom to create in the way that we choose to create life, where we bind ourselves is in our memories and in our assumptions. So let's deal with memories first. Anybody ever have anything that they considered bad happen to them? Anybody consider something majorly bad happen to them? Okay. Anybody ever relive that in their mind? In the last 15 minutes? Do you think this might have some effect upon our thinking? Do you think this might bind how we view the world? Okay, so did whatever it was that you were thinking about when you raised your hand happen in the last 5 seconds? Okay, so it's just a memory. Whatever it was an event that occurred that you have now an opportunity to either continue to view it in a way that was harmful. Oh, they really hurt me. This is kind of tough new thought love. I'm going to tell you this right now. Your soul was never hurt. Your soul cannot be hurt. Your soul is that essence of the infinite life of God itself embodied in you. How can that be hurt? So we get on this joyride of life on planet Earth as human consciousness, aware of our own consciousness, to evolve, both physically, emotionally, and perhaps intellectually. But we blossom into greater understanding, right? And what happens is an event happens. Call it what you will, whatever your event is. Anybody have more than one? Anybody have a lot?
Yeah.
Anybody ever do any work on forgiveness? Anybody still doing work on forgiveness? Yeah, you know. God, I wish forgiveness were a one-off and done. You know, oh, I forgive you. Let's go life. Sometimes forgiveness is really a burden. You know, it's like, I gotta forgive that again? I thought I was done with that one. Here it comes again. It's just dragging me down. Yeah, forgiveness actually is an ongoing process. Because what forgiveness is, it's not for the other people. Whoever was involved in your current situations, past situations. It's not for them. It's for us to realign ourselves. It is for us to bring ourselves back into the possibility of giving in life again. Right? Because all of those negative thoughts stop us from giving the light that we are to the world. They pull the bushel right over that bright light. And they let us hide in the fear and the anxiety and the worry and the depression and become ineffective in the world. You see, forgiveness is not about condoning. It is not about paralysis by analysis. It is not about acting in your best judgment to right injustice, for instance. To stand against hatred, for instance. But what it does do is allow us to pivot from an old idea, an old perception and interpretation of an event to a new awareness, to a greater understanding, to evolve into a higher consciousness through the act of forgiving an event and allowing ourselves to learn from it. We call it pivoting. So, anybody, I'm going back to for whoever raised their hand, pretty much all of us, about something that you have a resentment about, right? Something that happened in your past that you keep replaying the tape about, oh, that was so terrible. Not belittling it, really. It could have been terrible. The event could have been traumatic. And I'm not belittling that or saying that it's going to be easy as all, snap your fingers and it's a done deal. We're happy, joyous, and free again, But when we want to let go of that and look at it in a different light. So let's take a different light to shine on it. That light is the light of love. Right? We started this by saying that there is only love. That love is that infinite essence of spirit that lives in each one of us, even them. Right? Lives in each one of us, and that as individual consciousnesses here on this planet, we are on an evolutionary path to grow back towards our awareness of unity with an infinite spirit. Now, if we shine that light on whatever the incident was that we keep running around in memory, or for that matter, that light on any fear that we have of some future event that might be stopping us from acting in a loving, kind, harmonious, and higher consciousness way, right? We shine that light on it, and perhaps it can change our perspective a little bit. Okay? Now, I've had some relatively traumatic events in my life, and I'm going to use one of those as an example. It may be a little shocking, but I've said it often enough that it's not going to be shocking for me. When I was 12, I was molested. And for many, many years, I had to do a lot of forgiveness work on that. Because at that age, there's all sorts of blame and shame and guilt and like powerlessness and all this other stuff that happens in your consciousness about an event like that. And then I look at it and go, you know what, though? At a certain point, I certainly don't condone that type of behavior. I think it's wrong. It's a twisted philosophy of life. It's a twisted understanding of life that needs to be centered in like back to an idea of love and kindness and compassion and all that kind of good stuff. But what it did for me was this event made me who I am. I could not be who I am. I could not be what I have become without having experienced that event and every other event that happened in my life. That's true of each one of us. We are who we are through the accumulation of experiences that we have, innate God essence that we are, and all of the thoughts that we have come to believe about this life that we live. And so along the journey, the pivot that finally let me release any anxiety, fear, shame, or guilt about this particular incident was recognizing that I had evolved because of it. That my compassion level for people in similar situations rose dramatically by actually understanding the nature of that situation and the powerlessness that can be felt and the need for support and love and harmony and peace and expression, understanding, that may be required for somebody else to build past that experience into a whole life of love and harmony. Now, we can look at the world and say there are such traumatic things going on that, yes, there's a lot of work to do. But if we stand in unforgiveness, in resentment, hatred of whatever form you want to call it, we're not going to be very effective in healing our own lives to start with, the lives of others that we come in contact for sure, right? Or the world in general. It's not going to happen until we clear away the channel of our own energy to be able to be at a place of harmony and peace within so that we can be harmony and peace without. I like that idea. Be harmony and peace without war, poverty, injustice. On a personal level. Think about this if you're one of those people like me who drives, gets a little frustrated with driving on occasion, starts talking to themselves. Now, when I'm driving in my car and somebody does something I don't particularly agree with, I can lose it. Now, I'm not a road rage kind of guy anymore. Bless you! Helps a little bit. But the evolution that happens in that, think about this. When you're in your car or whatever vehicle, hopefully not on the bus, and you start mouthing off at somebody for have you just added love to the world? Or are you just like spewing venom and hoping that it sticks on somebody other than you while you're alone in the car. Doesn't really work that way, So the pivot point we have a choice at every moment in our lives. We have a pivot point at how we view something that has happened to us. Now, in New Thought, we like to say we can control the outcome of our experience. Well, I got news for you. If you're walking on water and changing water to wine, you bet. Okay? And if you're changing water to wine, you're invited to my next get-together. Loaves and fishes. Loaves and fishes. Yeah. The rest of us are a little bit, not quite there yet. We got to do some work on getting to that. So yes, we can create the experience that we have in life. New Thought's very firm about that. When we change our thinking, we change our experience of life. When we change our prayer work, changes our experience of life. We can change the conditions which we are experiencing life in. It takes a little bit of work. It's very difficult to change the conditions that we have in our lives if we are focused on the negativity and the resentment, the hatred, and the pointing fingers at other people. Because I got some news for you. You're never going to change them. They have to change themselves. The only thing we can do is change how we respond in the world and how we act in the world upon the beliefs that we hold. And so if we're locked in resentment, we are holding other people responsible for our lives. Where's the power? Other people are responsible for our lives. That's what resentment gets you. Here, you're responsible for my life. Here's a really practical technique, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. You can do forgiveness work. There are many, 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 many ways to do forgiveness work. I invite you that until you are at the point of I forgive everybody, everything, always, in each moment, in each moment, that you practice forgiveness on a daily basis. Spend a little time practicing forgiveness. What I was taught, and it works for me, is for every day that I go through, I try to figure out the people who annoyed me, and I pray for them to have everything that I would have for myself. Just to allow myself to forgive them anything that irritated me because they didn't do exactly what I wanted when I wanted it. How dare they? To free me of the channel of that anger and resentment that I want to hold on to, because let's face it, it's addictive. And to free me to be the love that is inherent in my being, inherent in each one of our beings, and allow them to be the love. Because we all kind of want the same thing. To be happy, joyous, free, loving, prosperous, to enjoy life. And so I pray for them to experience those things in their lives. And I find that frees me. That's my forgiveness practice on a daily basis. I invite you to try it. It doesn't take more than, maybe 2 minutes. If you're really intense about it, it could take 3. You got 3 minutes to forgive the world? See, once we forgive, we open ourselves to growing. And we can grow into that consciousness of love and harmony and peace and joy that is already present within us. We are the ones holding the veil over the light that is already inherent in us. So I invite you, as you go about your week, lift the veil. Be the love. I already know you are. Namaste.